Alright, so up next on our agenda, we're going to go ahead and talk about the model 1873 Single Action Army. This right here is a Heritage Rough Rider, which is not, a single action army, but it is clearly modeled after a single action army, so it's what we're going to use for representation purposes, simply because I can afford one of these, and, an original single action army is quite expensive. So this right here is a series that I'm doing in an effort to earn my way up to 100,000 subscribers. So if you like the video, then go ahead and, subscribe and like and share and do all that good stuff. And if not, then I'm trying to do a video like this every single day. So hopefully tomorrow's video will earn you a subscription if today's video does not. Okay, so in the previous video we had talked about the 1872 model and how that was a transitional model, going from the cap and ball revolvers to a cartridge firing revolver. Well, the 1873 model is the next piece of that puzzle that kind of earns its way through the evolutionary train as being the more modern design. The previous designs had an open frame or an open top style of frame, whereas the 1873 pattern had more of a closed style frame, much like the 1858 Remington. Now, that being said, originally the 1872 was presented to the United States military, but turned down because they wanted a more powerful revolver that had a closed frame on it for being able to handle that more powerful ammunition. What is this? Oh no, I've got a scratch on my revolver. Ah, that's terrible. I wonder when that happened. But anyway, well, the 1873 pattern, now they have the closed frame, the full encompassing frame of the cylinder. And so as a result, this right here is a much, much stronger system. I know that these right here were originally chambered in either a 36 or a 38 caliber round, but that was deemed not powerful enough. So the Army actually had these issued in a 44 or 45 caliber round, depending on how you look at bullet diameters. Eventually, they made their way to being chambered in 45 long Colt, and that right there is what was used as the standard military round for that time period, leading up until the adoption of the 1911 and the replacement of 45 long Colt with 45 ACP, which mimicked the ballistic capabilities of that cartridge. But that is a story for another video. So this right here, basically identical in function and ergonomics to the original 1872 pattern that was made for the transitional style. What it is it is a single action only revolver. We have another loading gate on the side, just like the transitional model. And you go through and you load your cartridges one round at a time. Whenever you are done loading, you fire, send your lead down range, and you have an ejection rod right here on the side of the revolver, which you can use to knock out your spent cases. So just like the transitional model, except this particular one does not have an open topped frame like the transitional models did. These right here were trying to mimic the old school style of revolver as they developed the more modern revolver that we all know and love today. I will say that the Heritage Rough Rider has a safety on the side of the revolver that was not present on the original 1873 single action armies. So that right there is just going to be completely excluded. Normally with these revolvers, you would carry 5 shots inside of your cylinder and having 5 shots inside of your inside of your cylinder right here, and you would have a chamber that is empty, and you would put the hammer down on that empty chamber so you don't have your firing pin sitting on a live cartridge. In this particular case, we have ourselves uno momento por favor, a rimfire cartridge, 22 long rifle, forever being doused with pocket lint and light sand. That is definitely their main derogative. But in this particular case, we have a rimfire cartridge. However, the single action armies were made in a variety of different cartridges, especially as the revolver got more and more popular. I mean, even nowadays, with this revolver still in production by Colt, you can get these chambered in basically any kind of cartridge that you want. They're incredibly strong revolvers that can withstand some incredibly strong pressures, and so as a result, you can have a very powerful revolver if you feel like it. In this particular case, we have simple 22 long rifle. In this particular case with the Heritage, we can get I keep saying in this particular case, because I'm trying to be specific as to this specific style of revolver. But we can get 22 Magnum cylinders for this as well, if we felt like that. As a matter of fact, I've already got one, but because of the cost and availability of 22 long rifle. Thank you, Kevin! Kevin, my goodness, calm down, buddy. We all get excited. Doesn't mean you have to go and scream at me. But just because of the availability and price of 22 long rifle, that's what we're going to be using with this. So 1873 up until the adoption in 1911, these right here were incredibly popular in U.S. forces, and I imagine that, as is the case with people refusing to accept more modern technology, semi-automatics and self-loading handguns were probably deemed as being the new, non-fangled, non-desirable technology, and so the FUDs during that time period probably stuck with their old-school single-action armies. Now, I imagine that these right here were probably used for a very long time, even after the adoption of the 1911, but that's more about speculation and finding particular moments in history where that was the case. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and load up these rounds. We'll send a couple of these rounds downrange. I would like to have myself a actual, single action army and not just a heritage Rough Rider that has, actual cartridges and not just 22 long rifle. I'd like to get myself one of these in 357 Magnum, in all honesty, but that's down the road. That'll cost some money, and that's something I've got to kind of build my way up to, and that's just not in the playbooks right now. So right now, 22 long rifle, let's send some lead downrange. All right, so much like our 1872 open top, we have ourselves at a half cock here, and we have our loading gate opened up, and we just take these rounds one round at a time, and we drop them into our cylinder, just like this, rotating the cylinder every time that we load a cartridge. This is not exactly a fast system by any stretch of the imagination, but it is certainly a much faster system than the percussion cap revolver. However, something like a top break revolver or a one of those revolvers that has the cylinders that kind of swing open like later Smith & Wesson models do, those would absolutely be faster, especially with the invention of the speed loaders that you can use for your revolvers. Well, this right here, you obviously cannot use a speed loader because you're loading one round at a time because the frame is encompassing the cylinder, so you cannot use a speed loader with it. So now I'm going to go ahead and just send a couple of rounds downrange. You guys have seen me shoot this one on the channel before, but hey, why not? I've got some ammo in it. 22 long rifle is not particularly powerful, not particularly hot, so we don't necessarily have to worry about a lot of recoil or a lot of noise. Matter of fact, I can hear it smacking into the microwave, which we have down there on the range. Now, there are some people out there who can shoot these really fast. I'm obviously not one of them, and I believe that's all 6 rounds. So now that we got that done, now we would reload this. I've seen some people reload these impressively fast, so obviously I cannot do that because I simply do not have the skills, but we go through one cylinder at a time and just eject these rounds, and all of our cylinders are empty. So just like that, sent some lead downrange. Like I said, I would like to get myself a more powerful, more potent version of the 1873 revolver. That would certainly be really cool and definitely a preference as far as I'm concerned. But that will be down the road because, like I said, I do not have the means to be able to do that. Anyway, folks, I appreciate your time. Thank you ever so much for watching. What do y'all think about this model and style of revolver? Yeah, it can get the job done, but once you're out of that 6 shots, the likelihood of revolving the likelihood of reloading your revolver at any significant pace is simply not existent, especially if you're in a gunfight, especially a modern gunfight where whoever is coming at you has a modern semi-automatic that has like 17 rounds that they can reload on the dot, or even a revolver that they could, use speed loaders or something for. A design like this is simply too antiquated to, well, in my personal opinion, too antiquated to bet your life on with what modern technology is currently out there. Anyway, I'm going to ramble off on a different tangent if I continue down that line. So I'm going to say, thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. My personal preference, I love the open top design of this revolver. This right here is not as strong as a revolver. It's an antiquated design, but my God, this right here is such a beautiful beautiful design, as opposed to the closed frame revolver, the 1873. Still gorgeous in many, many ways, but I just like the previous generation, the look and the feel of the previous generation, as opposed to the 1873 and beyond. Anyway, that is probably a rant for another video as well, whenever I compare which ones of those I like, because I'll probably compare a bunch of different revolvers. I really like the 1858. Remington did a what would you call it, a cartridge conversion with their 1858 model, where they kind of copied the 1873, and it's like an 1873 and an 1858 hybrid, where they just kind of joined themselves together. It's clearly modeled after an 1858, but it takes cartridges and whatnot, and that would be really cool to have as well. I'd like to get one of those, and like, oh, I'd probably get the 73 and 357 and the 58 cartridge firing version, whatever destination it is. Get that version in like 44 Magnum or something like that, so I have two different cartridges that I can fire. That would be really cool. Okay, I'm rambling like I always do. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you all in the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Gary. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.